I've just finished a brand new poster for the episode Oxygen, which can be seen on the screen right now. Now, usually I'd upload a 1 to 2 minute breakdown time-lapse just to quickly show off all of the layers that went into the poster. However, I recently got a comment on one of my artwork breakdown videos by Philip Hawkins, saying that he'd be interested in seeing a more detailed breakdown of how I put my posters together. Seeing as I've just finished a new poster, now seemed like the best time to do that. So, this is an in-depth breakdown of how I put the poster together. Just starting off, I thought I'd mention that a big inspiration for how this video is going to work is David Burgess, who creates amazing posters over on his YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, go check out his channel. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Whenever I start a poster, I always like to pick a base colour, so in this case it's a dark blue. The reason for this is because I usually like to decide what colour I want the overall poster to be. I would have gone with a black because obviously space is a deep black, but I thought just having a black background would be a bit boring, so I went with a deep blue just to make it a bit more colourful. After that, I've added a layer of stars because, you know, you can't have space without stars, and I've set that as a hard light in terms of the composite mode. And after that, I've added a white glow. This was just done with a normal paintbrush with a low opacity and low flow and 0% hardness. The reason being it just adds a bit of texture and makes the background more dynamic. And to go along with that, I've actually taken a screenshot from the episode of the opening scene where the spacesuits are going towards Chasm Forge. I really liked the sort of flare, the sun that was in that, so I've added that here, and that's why there's also the white glow below, which makes the top screenshot blend with the image a lot better. And finally, for the background, I've added a metallic layer set to soft light at 50% opacity. Again, it just adds more texture to space as opposed to just a soft background, and just makes the poster stand out a bit more. Up next we have Chasm Forge. Again, like with the light, this is a screenshot from the episode. I believe it's towards the end of the episode. What I've done is I've rubbed out some of the space around it to get rid of the hard lines, and I've set it to lighten, which basically gets rid of those darker areas. Next up we have Capaldi. Now obviously that's not all of him. I always like, if I do backlighting, I always like to add a layer of hair at the back that's brighter, to make it look like the hair has highlights at the back. So this is what this layer is. And then we have the 12th Doctor image, which I believe is a mix of two images. The first being the head, which is a screenshot from the episode that I've put through Remini to just sharpen the image. And then the body is a promo from the episode, and I think they work together quite seamlessly. I always like to create new images for these posters, just to make them more unique. Now, you can't see this on your end, but on Photoshop, there are quite a few adjustment layers I've added to it. So I'm just going to add them one by one so you can see all of the effects and layers I've added to make the image of the Doctor blend into the background. So there's a range of exposure, some levels, there's some color balance to make him more blue, color fill, which just, again, makes him blend into the background, and there's some white highlights to add highlights from that sun that is shining on him. Up next we have a shadow. Now that is there because the image above this is Bill, and that needs to be there just to make the two images blend together better. Now the first layer to Bill, although it's not on the actual final piece, is the hair. Now I think I took this from a promo from the pilot. I basically just cut out the hair so then I could use it as a hair highlight similar to the 12th Doctor, and you can see that blended in with the Bill image. Now again, like with Capaldi, this is a composite. I think it's 2 or 3 images. The head is definitely an image of its own from a promo. The body is from one of the other crewmates, but I don't know her name. And then because she had a strap on her, I've had to remove that using bits from other images. And I think it, again, like with the Capaldi image, although it's not too noticeable, it's a different photo, which just makes this poster more unique. And like with the 12th Doctor, there are a load of adjustment layers I've added. I think there's more on Bill, because the lighting on her is a bit different to Capaldi. The highlights are brighter on her, and the shadows are darker, and it needed a lot of adjustment basically to match the 12th Doctor. So these adjustment layers that I'm adding now basically make match Capaldi, but also match with the background. Again, there's another black shadow. This will be for when we add the zombie. There's also above that the circle window. Yeah, I name all the folders so I know what's in each one, and some of them have weird names, but this one is circle window. So starting off, we have we have this. So it's not very pretty, but this, you don't see this in the final poster. So basically the circle acts as a base for all of the images above, and I've set the images above to a clipping mask, so the images only will go on the circle below. I probably explained that very badly, but basically the images will not spill over that circle's circumference. So it's a really useful way of adding lighting to characters, or in this case just making sure everything stays within a certain area. So we start with the suit light, which again is a screenshot from the episode of one of the zombies, I believe. And above that we have some adjustment layers to alter the lighting, again just to make it blend in with the background. And above that we have a red glow, which just makes it stand out more. And also I think there was a red glow to it in the episode, so it kind of fits with that. And then the circle window bit of this is, again, we have another shape. This is for the clipping mask, which is above. And basically I've clipped a metal texture to it. Now originally I went with a circle from the Capaldi titles, the blue circle with the little circles. And for a long time that was there in the poster. Loads of versions of the poster have that. But it kind of stood out and it didn't really work. So I went with this metallic window. And also the window sort of matches, if you remember in the scene, the airlock scene, where Bill takes her helmet off. When the airlock doors open, you can see a zombie through one of the round windows. So that circle sort of represents that. I don't know if it comes across on the poster, but I thought that's a nice thing to put into the poster. In terms of what I've done to the texture, I've darkened it. Added color balance to make it more blue, and I've adjusted the levels of it. As well as that, I've also added a bevel and emboss to the layer just to make it look a bit more 3D. Up next, we have the bit of the poster that I'm probably the most proud of. It's the zombie. Now, here he is without all his layers. Annoyingly, with this episode, there are no promos of the zombies. There are barely any behind the scenes of them either, so I was adamant that he was going to be featured on the poster, as it's a haunting image, isn't it? But also it's quite a big bit of the episode, the zombies. I couldn't just have the crew without the monsters in the episode, so I made sure to include the zombie. Now this is quite a complicated image, it's made up of lots of images, so the base, I believe, the main suit is one of the male crew from the episode. I can't remember his name, but he gets killed quite early on. And then for the arms, they were originally down by his side, but I've rubbed them out and replaced them with a screenshot of when the zombie is reaching out for the Dr. Bill and Nardole in the episode. So I've cut them out from the screenshot and put them on there, and I think it blends quite well. The left hand is different because I wanted him to grab the Sonic like in the episode, so that's a different screenshot. And the Sonic, I believe, is made up of two images. One is a screenshot from the episode, and the other is actually a picture of the toy, but as the image is quite small, you wouldn't really notice it. Unlike with the other images, there are a bunch of adjustment layers on there just to make him blend in. Mainly changing the hue saturation, the color balance. I also wanted to add a red glow to his left arm, as you can see there, just to make it blend with the circle behind him. And then also, a bit creepy, but I've added white highlights to the eyes just to make them stand out a bit more. As well as that, I've also added a bunch of electricity and glows to the Sonic. In the episode, there's obviously the scene where he grabs the Sonic and does it short out? I don't know, but electricity comes out of it. So I added that to match that. And also, originally the image had both of his arms reaching out, and they matched, which I thought was a bit boring and a bit cheaty. So instead, as I previously mentioned, I changed the left hand to be grabbing the Sonic, and that just makes it a bit more interesting. And finally, for the zombie, I've added a red glow, which again matches the episode. This is just a glow overlay, which I've set to screen, and then I've taken a screenshot from the episode. I think it's the same screenshot I've used for the big circle to his left, and I've added that as well to add a bit more detail. Overall, the zombie picture is probably the most complicated bit of the poster, but nonetheless, I'm really happy with it. I think all the images and screenshots that I've combined work seamlessly together and really helps to bring the whole poster together. Next up, we have a sign, which is a screenshot from the episode. Now, before I get into the layers that went into that, I struggle quite a bit with the bottom section of the poster. As the top, I decided I wanted 12th Doctor, Bill, a zombie, and the Chasm Forge base behind them. But the sign and even the circle, I really struggled to figure out what to put there. Like, originally, I had Nardole in the circle. Originally, I had another zombie. Originally, as I previously mentioned, I had the blue Capaldi title swirl, but none of it was working, so it took a lot to decide what goes there. I still think maybe it's not the best thing I could do, but it's the best thing I could think of at the time. So the sign is just a screenshot from the episode, which I've kind of boosted the colors to make it pop more, and it's got quite a few adjustment layers, again, just to make it blend with the background, but also stand out more. I also use Liquify on it, as it was originally just a rectangular image, but what I like to do if it's like a paper cutout or something like that, I'll use Liquify to bend the edges to make it look like the paper isn't just completely flat. And again, it's a small thing, but to me it makes it stand out that bit more. Now the next bit, although it didn't make it onto the poster, I thought I'd show you. So originally there was another circle, and as you can see, that's the Capaldi titles circle I was talking about. I mainly added it because I wanted to balance the bottom and not have that empty space there. But honestly, I think it works without it. I mean, it might have been nice to have something there, but I don't think the space helmet works. Maybe I could have put the space helmet next to Capaldi's head with a motion blur to make it look like it's floating. But yeah, I think I made the right choice to get rid of it, as I think it works better without it. Now that all the main layers and images are down, it's mainly about adding more adjustment layers, vignettes, overlays, and gradients just to bring the whole image together. Now starting off, we have a blue gradient as well as a black vignette. I need to stop this, but I like using vignettes. I use them way too much. Like the first thing I do, apart from picking the base color, is I add a vignette layer and set it to about 20-30%. Basically, it just darkens the edges, but I think I need to get out of doing it because I always do it. You'll see it on most of my posters, like even with this, and there's always some sort of vignette at the bottom as well. Next up, we have some overlay effects. So first we've got some dust. It's just an image I found on Google. I imported it into Photoshop, set the composite mode to screen, which gets rid of the black background, and then I set that to 40% opacity. It's only a small detail, but I think it adds something to the poster. And after that, we have some light flares. Now, I've already used these, but it's not on a poster that you've seen yet. Ooh. But you'll be seeing that in the future. But looking at this poster, there's a flare at the bottom, and then we have a flare, another flare at the bottom, and then we have the flare at the top. Again, this just adds texture and some dynamic lighting to the poster. I mean, it's not necessary, but without it, it looks a bit bland, and with I don't know, it just looks a bit more exciting. So that's why I added those. And now, of course, we've got the vignette, the main vignette, which darkens the outside of the image. Again, I need to stop using that. And finally, we've got some adjustment layers. So starting off, we have levels, which sort of adds more contrast. It brightens the lights and darkens the shadows. Then we have curves, brightens the image. To be honest, it really needed that. It was way too dark before. And then hue saturation, just boosts the saturation to make it that bit more colourful. I usually add the adjustment layers at the end, so when I'm happy with the composition and how everything looks, typically I'll usually add a levels, a curves, a hue saturation, and a color balance, just to make some minor adjustments, just to, finish it off. Now, although this isn't part of the main poster, I thought I'd talk about it as it's quite a useful tool. I usually add a black solid color layer and set that to color in terms of composite mode, which makes the whole image black and white. Now, it's not an aesthetic thing, it's to help me adjust the levels of each individual image so they all match. So when it's black and white, I can easily see the highlights and the shadows, and I can match that with each individual image. But before I found out about it, I was just doing it by eye without that, and it didn't turn out as well, and it didn't blend together properly. But now I've used this, it really helps to blend all of the images together, as I can identify if the highlights on each image are the same or if they're not, and same with the shadows. So that is a really useful tool, and if you are making your own posters, I definitely use that technique. Even if you do it at the end to just make some minute alterations, it really helps. And finally, I thought I'd mention this, but watermark. I put this on all of my posters, more so now because I had quite a few people stealing my artwork, you pesky people.
Pesky bee?
So I've had to include the little watermark at the bottom, but now also I'm having to start adding this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a diagonal watermark, which, although it's low opacity, it covers the whole image, so I think it's harder to steal. It's annoying I've had to do this because it sort of ruins the poster that there's words all over it, but when you put so much hard work into something and then someone steals it, pretends that it's theirs, doesn't even credit you, you know who you are. It's annoying, so I've had to do it as a precaution. But getting rid of the watermark for a second, I am really happy with how the posters come out. My aim with my posters for this year is to just be different. Last year's they had a lot of glows and backlighting, and the compositions were pretty similar to each other. A lot of them had, you know, floating heads, which a lot of posters are accused of having. I don't know, they're all just pretty run-of-the-mill, but with the posters this year, I'm hoping to, you know, just do different things with it. I've already done, I think this is my 4th poster I've done this year, and all 4 are pretty different. I'm trying new things, learning new Photoshop techniques, and I'm aiming to create more new images. So in this one we have, of course, the 12th Doctor, Bill, and the zombies. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this has come out. I did struggle at the beginning, as I do with most of my posters, but once I've decided what images I want to use and where I want to put them, then it's I know, I find it quite fun blending the images together. So yeah, although it was a challenge, I'm really happy with how it's come out. And that's basically it for the artwork breakdown. I probably won't do this too often, as although it is nice to go through the poster, it is quite a time-consuming process, particularly with some of my posters which have more layers. However, if you would like to see more of these in the future, then do let me know in the comments section below. As well as that, if you have any questions about the poster, or questions about how to use Photoshop, then put that in the comments as well. I'll be sure to give them a read and answer them for you. All that's left to say is, I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.